All right, I was considering doing this yesterday, but it got pretty late by the time we got most of the results, and I just said I'll do it tomorrow. So it'll be a lot more fun to be recharged and have the advantage of having thought about what I was going to say. Um, so you have a lot of people who are anti-Sanders, who are basically saying, "Yay! I'm so glad what happened yesterday," and it is pretty funny to watch them sort of just be all excited like that, due to the fact that most of the states that went for Biden already were predicted to go to him, places like Virginia, Alabama, or Arizona, not Arizona, excuse me, Arkansas. And I always found it amusing when you have these right wing Democrats who win states like that, because they try to use it to this claim that, oh, I'm a moderate. It's like, yeah, but if the person you're running against wins California, Minnesota, New York, those are places that you're actually going to have a chance of winning, or most likely probably going to win during the general election. So, you can have Hillary, for example, who bragged about winning all of the South last time, only to come to the realization in a very too late way that during the general election, those states, with the exception of maybe Florida and Texas, do not mean a damn thing for the Democratic nominee, because the Republican always gets them. It's just like when the Democrats were saying, "Oh, who's gonna win Indiana?" Well, nobody, and we didn't have a problem with no one winning Indiana literally for 40 years until Obama carried it during his initial presidential campaign. But yeah, when you actually were aware of the polling, it really wasn't anything major or spectacular that happened yesterday. The only two states where Biden was able to actually do something that was worthy of being all, oh my God, I can't believe it. It's the Biden revolution, were in Massachusetts and Texas, because Warren definitely split the progressive vote with Sanders. And I don't like to play games like that, because there's never a surefire way that all of the votes for one candidate would go to the other one. But you've seen a lot of people on social media, especially after yesterday, who are going on TYT's channel and saying, "Oh my God, you propped up Warren. This is your fault." As though the people on that channel were supposed to know that all of the establishment candidates would jump out of the race within 48 hours of each other and endorse Biden. Like, you're basically getting mad at them for thinking something that up until a few days ago didn't even seem as if it was going to occur. So that's how people roll. Um, I was actually trying to talk to this relative about the reason the results went the way that they did, and their response was to say that it occurred because these are their words. Sanders talks about socialism, and as I sat here, I said, if that was really a turnoff for people, how the hell does he keep getting millions of votes? But this is why I said that there's a lot of analysis, and this is, I've said before, one of the reasons it's difficult for me to really be interested in talking about a lot of this stuff with other people, is because they have these analysis that they just kind of say things and they hope that it sticks, that they sound smart when they say it. Um, so again, my reason for being opposed to the belief that that's some killing factor for him is that he keeps getting millions of votes, and he wouldn't have won the popular vote in the first three states if that was such a big, huge turnoff. I mean, they refuse to consider the boost that Biden had from South Carolina, where he got endorsed by the congressman they've had for many, many years. They don't. Here's how a lot of the political stuff works out. People have lazy analysis that they basically use so they can feel better about not knowing what they're talking about. So, for example, there was a relative who said the reason Yang lost, the reason Booker lost, the reason Harris lost, the reason all these different candidates lost because of racism. Um, And it's like you're going to tell me the Democratic primary is racist after they nominated just 8 years ago, or rather, what is that, 12 years at this point, uh, African American with a Muslim name. I mean, you're just like, what are you talking about? But this is why I said that you can't, because my thing is with each of these candidates, one of the more irritating things about this is that because they're part of a certain group, people use the lazy man's way out of looking at the issues with respect to that candidate and just say, well, they didn't make it because of this factor or that factor. So, for example, with Yang, I said before that the main reason he didn't do that well is because low name recognition. There was some smearing of UBI, but it's mainly that people just don't know who he is when compared to candidates like Sanders and Biden, and the rest of the crew. Um, but you had this person who said, "Oh, they didn't vote for him because he's an Asian." No, they didn't vote for him because most of them know who the hell he was. I mean, I even brought up the fact that during the debates, he for the most part spoke less than any other candidate. Probably not by choice, but the point is, I can use some data or some empirical fact to go along with what I'm talking about. And then this same person who criticized Harris said she lost because of racism, right? Now, this is someone that this person criticized over things that had nothing to do with her ethnicity. And still she was given the benefit of the doubt by this person as, oh yeah, all the Democratic voters suddenly now do not like African Americans, even though, I mean, they're pretty much the reason why any black person is in office if you you actually stop and think about it. But you get the point that they take these like weird parts of these candidates, just like with Buttigieg. You have people who actually will think he lost because he's gay. And I try to explain to these people, let's say there's a segment that just refused to vote for someone that is of its particular race, sexuality, whatever. When you stop at that and just say, oh, this person lost because they're this ethnicity, this person lost because they're this, you're turning your brain off from thinking about anything in particular that candidate did to lose. I've talked a lot about the interest I have in running against my Congress member, who I think is very um, crappy, for lack of a more wanting term. But if I, let's say, ran and lost, I wouldn't blame ethnicity. I wouldn't say, oh, well, maybe if I was, I think it would be a combination of several factors. One of them being that most people in the district would not know who I am. Um, you'd probably have some low voter turn. There's just people have got to get out of these little things they have within their minds where they basically refuse to consider anything as actually being based around someone's efforts versus what they look like. But no, with respect to the results from yesterday, I was getting kind of annoyed because I thought Democratic voters wanted to win. Like screwed what the media says and the rest of the stuff about electability, whatever. But I thought people had the ability to have kind of just this thing where they basically said, okay, I don't like that we lost last time, but I don't want to pick someone who shares ideological similarities with the person who lost during the previous cycle. And instead of having that mentality, they just kind of say, we want double trouble. We want to repeat this. Well, like I said, if Biden wins, or if who else is running, yeah, if he wins, I'm not going to vote. I'm going to do exactly what I did last time. I don't vote for douchebag candidates that are not going to change anything. And it's funny because you have a lot of Democratic voters that when you say that will go, "Oh, I hope you enjoy 4 more years of Trump," and they're telling me this as a person who lives in a blue state that the Democrat is going to win either way. Because we all know the candidate doesn't have to earn your vote. If they're a Democratic nominee, you have to bend over and support them blindly. I wish people would stop playing that stupid game, but we're gonna be seeing that for another 30 or 40 years. Just the refusal to use critical thinking skills. Oh, there was also Jinx Race, which you had all these little conservative clowns laughing about ha 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 ha. I admittedly did get flashbacks to when Allison Hartson lost the uh, the Senate race 2 years ago, and the only reason that bothered me that well, rather it was the same thing where a person like she would go around, she would say, "Oh, I have the most volunteers. I've all this money's been donated, whatever," and then to get 2% of the vote, it's pretty similar to Jenks' margin actually. Because I remember Kyle was like, "Oh, he spent decades building a group of supporters and all this stuff," and I'm just like, "Yeah, but that still doesn't mean." Because I know how voters are. If the majority of them don't know who someone is, they're not gonna win. Just like with Cenk, he can be on TYT every single day, but most regular people who are just the average casual voter don't know who the hell he is because most voters don't even know who most of these pundits are. Like for every one person at district that knew who Cenk was, there's another thousand or 200, and we're gonna say 200 if I'm being nice, that don't know who the hell he is. But it's not because he's some unknown person who hasn't been attempting to get their name out there. People just don't pay attention to pundits. So when one of them says, "I'm running for office," they don't really get this big, huge, real life boom. Like it was a big deal online, but during every single time I saw him mentioned on TV, it was always about those stupid blog posts from 20 years ago. And that unfortunately became, if any of the people in that district saw anything with him, probably most the largest amount of exposure that he could possibly have. It was really pathetic to watch all of the material surrounding his run because he basically just got smeared, and these networks were effective in terms of not talking about what his actual positions are. Like to watch him go on CNN and for them to just sit there crying about some blog post, crying about what he said on his show 10 years. Like, who cares? But again, this is why I don't, why politics is just such a rancid sport at this point. Because, if I were to run for office and they were doing the thing where they bring up the chick stuff or, I don't know, some other comment I've made, I'm really going to say, is that more important than 30 million Americans not having health insurance or uh, over 70% living paycheck to paycheck? What was it, 78%? These things are just basically um, standard recollections I have that are based in fact. And I kept trying to tell a lot of these stupid voters that those statistics existed before Trump, and they existed because we have a continuous governing cycle where you might change the president, but you don't change the Congress because people don't care about most elections. Hell, progressives don't care about most elections. You can go look at Ed Markey from Massachusetts. This is a guy who's been in Congress for over, what is it, 30, 40 years. Just recently, a few, last year had the Green New Deal with AOC. And currently he is getting outpolled by a man who only became a member of the House because his grandfather was one of the most iconic Democrats of the last maybe 60 or 70 years. And he's doing the same stupid thing Buttigieg is doing. Oh yeah, I'm young and I'm the generational change as I do the exact same thing that politicians have been doing for decades. Yeah, vote for me. But even with someone like Markey, right, who has a proven progressive record, but doesn't get the limelight because he doesn't run for president or doesn't lead on issues in some aggressive manner, they ignore him. So when they lose that seat and suddenly one of the main people who's behind the Green New Deal is gone, it's going to take progressives by complete surprise because they're not paying attention to congressional races for the most part. That's why I promote Ro Khanna so much on this channel because I have enough sense to know who my allies are. A lot of progressives have the cutthroat thing that just keeps letting them sit in this little stagnant position. You want Warren to drop out while you're calling her a fraud and a phony and the rest of this stuff. And then you get surprised when she wants to basically muddy the waters by staying in and taking more votes, or presumably taking more votes from Sanders. Really, just pick a side. You can't have it both ways. You can't shame the candidate for different from Sanders and then say, oh yeah, if she gets out, we're definitely going to get her votes. That margin might go to Biden. Again, I don't think it would for the most part, but my point is that they're trying to shame this lady out of this race, while at the same time expecting her to want to be their ally and bow. And I already said politics. A good chunk of it is about ego. So when Warren started running and she saw all those polls where she was leading, it was like her fantasy came true, the ultimate power. And to have every state go for Sanders or Biden, or I guess if you want to be delegate bound, Buddha trash, it hurt her pride. So in her little sore loser fest, she's going to stay in here and hope to screw up Sanders for the DNC so she can get good favors with them, because she already knows she's tainted the water with progressives due to the well, mainly to not endorsing Sanders last time, but also to saying that he said during a private meeting that a woman couldn't win the presidency, which again is nonsense. Um, this stuff is about who can, because, and this is what I don't like about a lot of people. They try to pretend when they do the character thing, like, oh, Biden is such a great guy, and it's like, yeah, but we're trying to make this about issues. A lot of people vote on who makes them feel comfortable, but that being comfortable to where you ignore reality is really dangerous, because I could easily go through and look at Biden's positions on war, right, which I would say are identical to Obama's positions, which I would say are very, very identical to Trump's positions. I can say, oh, he wants to keep the for-profit healthcare system just like Trump, which has allowed 30 million people to go uninsured. We could go position by position, but you're in an era where people basically turn their brains off and support whoever they think has a good chance of winning. So, I did like to believe that the little South Carolina thing was just going to happen. Um, but there's no type of just concern for accuracy. People don't sit back for the most part and actually think about who has the best positions, who can actually positively affect my life. It doesn't matter to them. It's about being part of a team. It's just like I used to try to talk to Trump supporters, and every time I would do that, I would just get so annoyed because they basically, in playing with his team, have turned their brains off to where, you can bring up some facts, some reality, and they'll still try to shift it to something else. That's why a lot of times when I would watch these different call-in shows and they would ask some conservative, hey, what do you think about single payer? Oh, that's government run healthcare. And when the government, blah, 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 it's a way for them to turn their brain off, don't think critically, and just blindly support every position the president has. There can be no difference, no variance. And Democrats are kind of they're really not that far apart. I mean, you know, you you back a man who we've got all these gaffes from, who's crappy positions left and right, and no one's supposed to believe that's weird. And like the thing with Hillary was that she was at least able to couch her status quo in some kind of progressive, like, fake rapping. Oh, I'm going to be the first woman elected. Vote for her because she has a vagina, right? Biden is just this milk toast politician who got creamed every time he ran for president before this because there were more exciting people. And in this instance, he's basically getting what the DNC wanted to do for him last time had Hillary not ran. So it pretty much says that no matter who the DNC supports, it can be the most uncharismatic, crappy politician in the world. You will have a sizable group of voters who turn their brains off and support that person. And that's why I said that the game of politics is so rancid because, I could point to Sanders having the most grassroots donations of any person ever run for president, all this different stuff that points to the fact that he has the most loyal supporters. And you will still have people who try to claim, who attempt to insist that this progressive can't win because he's not going to appeal to the moderates, even though the supposed moderate that they ran last time lost. But again, this is not about thinking about things critically. It's not about sitting back and having an analysis that makes someone feel uncomfortable. See, I actually do this thing every now and again where I'll go and listen to commentators, right, of all the different varieties. And one of the things they were saying yesterday was that Sanders made a mistake in South Carolina by discussing certain things, talking about foreign policy and whatnot. And even if I think you shouldn't have to change your message to go to another state, I do agree that there are certain parts of it that would resonate in certain areas more than others. You go to Iowa, you talk about farmers, all that stuff, right? But even in listening to their conclusions, I still, based off of the margins between Sanders' loss to Clinton last time and the loss to Biden this previous time, I don't believe he could have done anything to win that state. There are just certain states that they have statistics that do not bode well with him. That's why before Virginia was even called for, a lot of people predict Biden would win that state because there's a lot of wealthy people there that aren't really feeling the populist message because they're not feeling the negative effects of the Trump era. But again, these are things that people don't consider because they want to have an easy narrative. Oh, yes, Biden is so popular in all these different southern states where he's going to lose in a couple of months anyway if he gets the nomination. Yes, very, very smart election strategy he has to win states in the primary that are definitely not going to go from the general. Yeah, people have been saying a lot of stupid stuff recently. They have turned off their brains. They have disabled critical thought. And again, I'm so sick of seeing idiots who you will, because I said one of the biggest reasons I get annoyed is that I'll try to, when there are certain people who I know better and they just keep going back to the same couple of talking points, that makes me not want to address or speak to on any of this stuff with them. You have a person who I literally sat down and I explained three, four, five reasons for why no one should vote for Buddha Trash, right? Of course, they didn't stop at 100,000 people because Democrats will vote for anything with a D next to its name. Um, but I said that, right? I said, here are these reasons. You got a pro-Israel guy in a Palestine supporting party for the, with respect to the voters. You've got a healthcare program that wants to be both with this stupid Medicare for all who wants it nonsense, all that dumb crap, right? And their response after hearing all this stuff, after me going position, this is all stuff exclusive to Buddha Trash in particular, because at the time he was still in the race and doing fairly well in polling. After he gets out, America isn't ready for anybody gay. But this is what I'm talking about. Why have conversations with people who, you go out of your way to explain something in this personalized way. You say, hey, these are the particular reasons for why this has not occurred. And then their response is to simply throw what you said under the bus and go back to whatever their headcanon is. It's like, oh yeah, the Democrats are so racist. It's not like they've nominated a black person before. And see, that's another thing you got to realize, that the lazy man's way for political analysis is to blame what the candidate looks like versus what they actually did. So, for example, with Harris, you'll have some idiot, some in wherever, who will say she lost because she's a minority and she's a woman. No, she lost because she flip flopped on key issues between first supporting single payer, then supporting a version of it, which pissed off a lot of progressives. Uh, she cried and whined about getting Trump suspended from Twitter. There's a whole bunch of factors that go into this stuff, right? But again, people who are being lazy will refuse to look at any of that, and they'll just say, "Well, the Democrats are now sexist and racist because they didn't vote for this one damn person." When Obama lost to Bobby Rush in Illinois, which was the only time he ever lost an election. I don't remember him in his memoir saying, "Oh man, if only I had been taller, or if only the person I was running against wasn't black, I would have won." Because even he, for as just horrible as I think a lot of his positions when he was in president were, still knew there was no empirical value in sitting back and being so narrow-minded on the reasons for why he lost. Music fiend. I'm not Clinton. I'm not the president, President Clinton, so I don't feel your loss. because they're ill-informed. Again, the younger black voters, Sanders did much better with. And then it's like, oh yeah, Clyburn's endorsement was so great. I have this weird feeling, called a hunch, that if you went around that state, so in South Carolina, I will bet you that 70 or 80% of the people in that state couldn't name one damn bill that Clyburn has been involved with, because he doesn't do anything. He's just another neo-lib Democrat that just kind of sits on, gets to coast to re-election every 2 years. Yeah, Music Fiend. A lot of the older crowd is screwing us up, but again, it does have to do to an extent with Warren staying in and splitting the progressive vote. But she is jealous because she thought this was her turn, and it turned out to be anything but. So rather than go out gracefully, she's gonna make sure she does some damage on the overall progressive movement. Very, very wise and bright and brilliant strategy, if I do say so myself. When Cenk was doing his race, there was actually a filmmaker who was running in that same 25th primary, and they dropped out and they said, if we want progressive to win, Cenk is the best choice. And I have a lot of respect for that, because when you realize you're going to pull from the same type of voters, to have enough awareness to say, I just really don't want one of the establishment people in that position. So even if I'm not the Democrat that takes them on, I'm still going to support this other person who's running. That takes a lot of commitment to the cause. Warren is just running right now so she can do some crap at the convention. She has really dumb advisors. If I was her advisor, I'd be screaming from the top of the hills, get out, drop out, leave. We can still be, I don't know, a secretary in a Sanders administration or something like that. But again, they have this thing where they basically refuse to just consider anything serious. And I said before that to look at this primary, see, because I try to tell people certain stuff that it gets stupid, right? But it doesn't surprise me because we've seen it happen before. So there was this narrative a while back that Sanders was basically he only was able to get 13 million votes, one of 20 plus states, because he was not Clinton, right? It was the not Clinton vote that was the reason that he did so well. And it was really obnoxious, because why the hell would we all be so excited for someone just because they're not, so whatever, it's just being, stupid. But it's funny because when I consider that narrative, that's actually what it is for Biden, where a lot of people who are supporting him within the establishment just support him because he's not Sanders. It was the same thing with Cruz and Rubio and the rest of them when Trump ran in the previous Republican primary. They pick some person and they all prop up and get behind in an attempt to spoil over whoever the party elders determine is not good enough for their little nonsense fest. And it's extremely targeted. I've never seen some of the weird stuff that's happened to his campaign or to Gabbard's campaign or to Yang's campaign. But they're not doing this to the rest of the Democrats, is what I'm saying. So, when you try to explain this to the voters, they look at you like you're crazy because they don't follow this stuff regularly. So this idea of a hidden hand that's basically trying to swing it in one way, they don't buy it because they don't know any better. And they don't have enough patience or wherewithal to go look it up. So, it falls on deaf ears. People have been playing a really ridiculous, it's just a dumb game. I wish we could get to a point where the same group of people who are sitting over here upset over these results would actually care about some congressional races. Because the first thing they'll do is they'll always say, "Oh well, if Sanders wins, he's not going to have a Congress that's going to pass his stuff." It's like, whose fault is that? All these you have all these damn networks, and they don't give one lick of coverage to any elections for the most part, unless it's a presidential one. The only one of those Senate races from that midterm that actually got some real attention was the Cruz and O'Rourke one. Other than that, they all got ignored for the sake of just wanting to not pay it. You already know they wanted the ratings of talking about Trump every day. That's what they were trying to go for. And music fan, did you like that thumbnail? You probably left by now, but yeah, that's pretty much what I see when I think of Biden. It's like people will actually try to shame me for not wanting to vote for someone like that, which is the most comedic thing in the world. Because, like I said, no candidate is going to uh, force you to vote for them. So they can keep playing that game. It's not going to work. I just started to find it more comedic than anything else because it's like if you guys thought he was such a great candidate, you wouldn't have to try to screw with me to get me to vote for him. Even as a person who lives in a blue state, no less. But yeah, last night was pretty annoying. I'll say that the next primary we have, which is next week, he Sanders needs to go to some of those two of those states at least that he's not doing too well in and see what can happen from over there. Because unfortunately, you do have a lot of people who just are now saying, "Oh, the race is over. It's all been called. It's finished." No. Also, I will say one of the few good things that happened yesterday was that California voted for him. Listen, California has had over 40 years of crappy governors and over 50 or 60 years of just god awful senators. So for them, this literally might be the first time during an election with my state, so statewide versus like a house seat or something, where I actually said, "Wow, I'm so proud of my state for once." Because we voted for, well, I didn't vote for her, but my state went for Hillary last time. So it's a little more than useless. And I never knew that this was gonna be the day that California would do something right for once. But yeah, the only two places Biden won that anyone needs to raise their eyebrows at are, uh, no, not two places. It's Minnesota, Massachusetts, and Texas. Because Sanders won Minnesota last time, and even had Omar get on Twitter and say, "What the hell, people? How could you let my home state go to him? How could you be so non united?" And she's right to think that because, like I said, the voters they're just all over the place. But again, this never would have happened if we hadn't have had the dropouts from the last couple of days. So they consolidated for better or for worse around a candidate, and they got a result that was fairly desirable. Again, people are drawing the wrong conclusions from this crap because they actually have the nerve to go around saying that it's due to his ideology, or basically they're trying to make it less about the establishment getting together to prop up someone and more about Sanders as a candidate. Like, oh yeah, he's just not popular. That's why he gets millions of votes every time he runs, because unpopular people get millions of votes and win multiple states. And they're doing that stuff with malicious intent because they don't want to believe, you know, that there is a very powerful group. Let me tell you, some people don't like to have their worldview challenged. So even if it is actually true, which it is, that there is a larger group trying to screw him over, they will refuse to believe that because they'll feel better in thinking that, oh, maybe he just messed up in this one place or another. Like the guy who was talking about that ad, it's like, yeah, let's say that that's true, right? If he had ran some more ads, he could have done better. Okay, but how the hell do you explain the other states? Because they're playing follow the leader now, coupled with a progressive vote that's being split between him and Warren. Again, when you actually think about this stuff, it makes people get a little nervous because they know it's a more intricate system than what they're led to believe. Oh, I didn't feel like voting for this person. No, there are. It's more important than something like that. It's about people on a larger scale bending the knee to support some person that no one is excited to support. So yeah, it's a difficult game we're playing here, and that jank race is just another example of why I said running for anything that's not the presidency is difficult in its own ways because you have to, like, I tried to explain this one guy. If I won my house seat, right, just in some fantasy world, uh yeah, I know everyone's being bought off. Music Phoenix, you know these people, they all play for the same team. So Klobuchar and Buddha Trash probably got called and said, "Hey, you can have a role in Biden's cabinet if you get out now, and then he can endorse one of you for president in 8 years." You know, that kind of thing. So I'm saying that even if I were to, let's say, run for the House seat that my district has, and I kept trying to make this point to people, it is literally 5 or 6 times larger than the one that AOC had. AOC didn't even have to get 20,000 votes. I'd have to get over 100,000. But see, those are the kind of factors that people don't want to consider because they make them think and stop and say, oh, wait a second, if this person loses, it might not be because he himself did something wrong. He actually might have been running against some insurmountable odds with a large group of people that he couldn't have humanly been expected to meet all in 1 year. Uh, Again, these are just the kind of things that people try to ignore because it's a lot easier to believe, oh, that person didn't win because they're not white or some kind of stupid trash. It's just like when I do this channel. I've had people suggest that the reason it's not as popular or large as a lot of these other commentators is because of ethnicity, and I do think that stuff does play a factor, but I still will concede that for the most part, it's due to other people being around much longer and just like having more exposure and whatnot. Yeah, running for office, pretty much any race, there are multiple reasons why someone wins or loses, but people ignore that because they want to believe in the easy narrative so they don't have to think hard about it. That's why that person, yeah, it's not even just the algorithm, it's that if you got a person who has 800,000 or 700,000 subs like Jimmy or David Pakman or whatever, their supporters are probably going to be more likely to share their stuff and go and talk to people about them than someone who only has 2,000, if not less. So I'm just saying that that's one of the bigger reasons for that's another factor for that. It's just like with Sanders, where he went from being unknown to actually being a familiar figure, and they tried to play it against him in the sense that they would scream socialist and oh his program cost 1 billion and all this stupid stuff because they knew that they couldn't keep ignoring him in the way that they did with the previous election cycle if he started to win multiple states, which he did. So they said, all right, we're just going to turn the attack dog on. I mean, I think you might have seen that video I have of Roe talking to Alfredo from CNN about single payer. People are more willing to share something for its presentation of professionalism as opposed to the actual message and content. Oh, I should have sent Ruben a notification. He probably didn't even see this until now. But yeah, they don't actually care to see what is specifically being said. So that's why you have all these people who are like, "Oh, I like Buddha Trash. Why do you support his views?" Oh, well, he sounds articulate and like he really wants America to be better, and he's talking about, like what? That was the same thing with I know you're tired of me bringing her up, but with Triple L, where she liked Buddha Trash and she couldn't name one actual position of his that was like anywhere close to being a major game changing thing. And it was the same thing with when I was telling her that uh, Trump continued a lot of Obama's policies and Obama continued a lot of Bush's policies, and she was like, "Well, the policies might be similar, but the messages like what? Think I care about some stupid tweet when millions of people are getting blown to pieces overseas? Are you serious?" Well, you remember that clip where he was cursing out the guy in the nightclub or wherever he was? It's like the N word for us. Telling you, man, it's like every person now has to act so tough and strong. Like if someone called me a name in public, I would just keep walking. I don't. There is no need for me to try to curse someone out or anything over this. Not worth it. Yeah, well, Music Fiend. The other thing about that stupid program, Medicare for All Who Wants It, was that it wants the voter to be stupid enough to think that you're going to get Sanders' plan as an option, and then also have the option of the private insurance industry when Buddha Trash is at best offering you a public option as opposed to the actual single payer. Like all the candidates have a coordinated front. The Senator's gonna be like, yeah, yeah, thanks for winning, Buddha Trash. I'm gonna try to write some legislation with you so we can make sure that my program is inside of yours. The primary was coordinated. All these establishment Democrats candidates are working together all of this time. No, most especially in the last couple of days, they decided we're just gonna go for my. Hey, I know you don't like Harris Rubin, but on TYT yesterday they were kind of lamenting the fact that it wasn't her instead of Biden because at least if she theoretically were the nominee, she wouldn't. She doesn't have the gaffes, is what it was trying to get at, and still could at a time try to play like a progressive. I thought NBC was going to push Chris Hayes as their own counterpart to Tucker Carlson, but he went back to being a generic establishment goon. Yeah, he's like him, fake tough guy Lawrence O'Donnell. None of them are even remotely worth paying any attention to. That chick that looks like a pixie from whatever her name was. Oh, Rule or whatever. They're all the same. They get on these networks. They say some generic crap, and then they get paid, way much more than they should. So they're not worth anything actually paying attention to. It's just a bunch of fools. So like we could actually go network by network. They always, even if I don't like a certain commentator, I can still give them credit for being worth the piss. So like with Fox, Bill O'Reilly was worth something. What was his name? About to say Chris Matthews on MSNBC before he was, even though he was getting ridiculous from the comments he was making, he still is actually known, like probably the most well known or meaningful contributor from that network. We should go through like every network and just pick out which journalists historically and like in contemporary times mattered the most. It would be a very small number, I can tell you that. Oh, Ruben, are you familiar with Ed Markey and his little situation in Massachusetts where he's getting challenged by one of the Kennedys, and the guy is like a neoliberal, but he is trying to hide his status quo positions through his age. Like, yeah, I'm young and I'm just I'm doing so I'm gonna change everything, even though I want to do the exact same things that politicians have been doing for decades. No, I was saying that Markey is another example of why I say progressives don't care about any election that's not the president one or the presidential ones, because he wrote the Green New Deal with AOC. He supports single payer, and you're going to let him get creamed by someone who's pretty much not confirmed to back any of that. Damn, voters are so just. It really is like taking one step forward, one step back with people. But yeah, that post election analysis was also idiotic. Well, if Sanders would just change his message, like his whole thing is he stays with his message. This little election pivot thing isn't going to work. And again, if it was such a big turnoff, how the hell does he get millions of votes with pixie dust? I don't know why they can't just admit that you have between Warren messing with the popular vote because she stays in the race over and over. Okay, AOC backstabbed her target base hard yesterday. It's over. Rose. The hell? What did she do? I know she said something dumb about maybe a month ago where she was like, "Oh well, you got to negotiate and bend the knee and all that." But what new thing happened? I don't know. I don't go on Twitter that much anymore because, like I said, I'm so finished with all these social media sites. Yeah, music, and I'm just as confused as you. Well, again, I don't really even pay attention to her anymore because you saw me. I would do multiple videos about Rokana instead if I'm gonna prop up a progressive. I do like doing those because like you could take a clip of him and you watch it at the start and I just give commentary about everything that was said. So they're more entertaining than just the standard crap. Where you turn on the camera and you try to make things make sense. Pandering to Lizard Warren and her supporters, she spent all day ranting about how Bernie supporters should get along more with Warren and her. Oh, I saw something similar to that by a person who basically accused Sanders supporters of being so mean to Yang and Tulsi supporters that they wouldn't vote for your candidate. And again, I don't know what the hell they're talking about because I don't even. I mean, dude, this is like I've never seen an election cycle where they blame the voters for the lack of support for the candidates. It's getting really dumb. Stop bullying these grown people who can turn off their computer and not read your mean comment. The hell is going on with this thing? Sorry, my phone was getting on my nerves because it was the I kept entering the passcode and it was like, oh, we don't recognize this. It's like, what do you mean? AOC also keeps flip flopping about her background. She goes back and forth between being a humble waitress and Ted Kennedy's intern. I thought she was both. I thought she was his intern and then she was a waitress. Man, she just is so damn overrated and like I said, I really don't get why she's being propped up as the supposed young progressive. Like the fact that I see so many people trying to get her to run for president in the next election cycle, the one after this. It really. Oh, look! Wow! I just typed on the Hill. They have a new article they wrote about her today. I bet it's a tweet. That's all she does is just tweet. Let's see here. The article would load. It's important. Oh yeah, yep, tweet. So I've never seen a member of Congress where all they do is just make articles about their tweets. Like damn, it's her and Trump that have the most articles about tweets out of any politicians. Was that guy you were talking about earlier, Michael Tracy? The guy I was talking about earlier. No, 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 no. I was bringing up a relative that had basically said that all the people who lost because of race. They didn't say it in those terms, but like how it is. Oh, you know, Harris lost is because people don't want a black woman. Oh, Booker lost. People don't want a black man. Oh, they just want old white people or white men. So, okay, whatever you want to believe. That's why Harris was polling so well for a time because people just secretly were plotting to not vote for her in a couple of months. It's not like she did anything to screw it up herself. I told you that's the lazy man's way of running for office. That when you just basically blame whatever your ethnicity is for the reason you couldn't win. So they like to play those stupid games. Because again, I don't believe that stuff due to the fact that it has no value for me. Like if I ran and I lost, what good does it do me to say, well, maybe if I was white, I would have won. Like I can't magically suddenly switch to a different ethnic group. So doing that doesn't help me improve for a potential second campaign. It doesn't. It's not conducive to actually making things any better. It's you trying to find some ridiculous explanation for your shortcoming. Told you with all the stuff that I feel, I've really sat back and thought critically about it. You know, when I was upset over the chick thing, for example, I sat back and said, I'm done blaming myself because 90 plus of these bastards and they all do the same thing. And it was the same thing with the employment thing. It's like you apply to almost 50 places in less than 3 months, and you're not supposed to think that it's the places and not you as the person. A lot of Tulsi Gabbard supporters do what you described earlier. Yeah, they're just kind of like they're holding on to a false hope. Let me tell you something. If Yang or Tulsi or just any person you can think of, right, that tried to label themselves progressive was doing as well as Sanders is right now, where they won, multiple states, and Sanders had 50 delegates or less, like Warren and the rest of these people do, they would tell him to get out. Yeah, yeah, professional concern. I agree. They sit over there crying about the way that you treated this person is so mean. Oh, how could you talk to them in this manner? And you should have been nicer, and then they would have switched to supporting you. And, you gotta make sure that they feel included and comfortable, and blah blah blah. It's all about trying to trick someone into thinking that the way you talk to these people actually matters. Man, I had so many Trump supporters on Twitter that I used to try to speak to. I would sit here and I would explain to them this is the reason why the economy is not as good as he's trying to make it seem. Economy is an indicator of wealth. I would go through all of these fact-based arguments, and I would even say he didn't start this, but it's a continuation, just for them to say, "Well, I'm still going to support him anyway, but thanks for the conversation." That's when I just stopped caring, like about having political discourse, because what the hell is the point of debating any of this stuff if people write off facts as an opinion or as something that does not thoroughly determine who they're going to support? Like I back Sanders so much because single payer, I believe, is much better than the current system. Now let me tell you something, Music Fiend. A lot of us hate Fox News for good reason, but they did one good thing when the presidential election of 2016 started. So it was early 2015. I didn't have a problem with Hillary at all. Um, and then Fox played clips of her saying she was against gay marriage and she was for it. They played clips of her saying she wanted more gun control than she was against it. They played every flip flop that lady ever had, and I said, this is a hollow piece of crap candidate. That if she loses, I mean, it's not going to really be a surprise because people think she doesn't stand for anything, and they have good reason to believe that. But when I saw that clip, along with the fact that I got excited for a lot of what Sanders was saying, that changed my view of her, and that made me not want to support her in any circumstance. And that feeling has only been vindicated in the years since, with her coming back out and saying all this stupid stuff about him. Oh, nobody likes him. That's why I thanked him for campaigning for me, because nobody likes him. He didn't get anything done. It's not like they only call him the Amendment King because his hair flies or some kind of crap. Feelings over fact 2020. Apparently, they showed their true colors with how they react to the BDS vote that both Ro Khanna and Tulsi Gabbard voted against. They were outraged, but only with Khanna. Yeah, because they're. I told you, the only people who I see progressives not throwing away every 2 minutes are Sanders and to an extent Gabbard. Everybody else, you vote one way they don't like. Like one of the main reasons I really like Roe is because he actually will go on TV and try to argue for his positions. You look at someone like AOC or Talib or Omar or any of these people, and you barely see them. Like when I saw Omar on what's that guy's show? That On the Beat thing with that Ari clown, the one that looks like a snake. Uh, I was shocked because she appears so infrequently on TV. So what the hell is she doing here? This must be some kind of this is a rare sight. And it was like look, it was like a shiny Pokemon. I was really shocked. Yeah, that guy. No, Melber, the one from MSNBC, the one that has like the spiky hair or whatever that sticks forward with the long nose. The one that wears the suit and tie and looks like an average guy. Imagine we just had to get to a point. I just have to keep describing some physical trait of his. The one that makes a lot of loot as he's wearing the either black or blue suit. No, they're playing a really ridiculous game here, where you basically have all of the establishment people getting together to support a crappy candidate, and then when they lose in November, they're going to be. And then you have someone like Packman, who I really like, who says, "Well, Biden could still win if the economy is bad." I said, "Look, saying something like that assumes that people are going to base themselves." I don't know why it matters, music fans, but I guess every stream now people are just gonna start whining about some non-important factor. But no, I was saying that it just made me lose my train of thought. Oh, that the economy is going to be a big factor when you have all of these Trump supporters who support him no matter what. Like it doesn't, and you couple that with someone like Biden who doesn't have grassroots support, who's horrible at fundraising. It's going to spell out doom, and I just think he's so short-sighted to even suggest something like that. Oh yeah, Biden could win if the economy is bad enough. No, because there are still 50 plus million people in this country that will vote for the Republican no matter how bad it gets and fulfill Alex Jones' prophecy about Obama's third term. Oh, don't mention that. I remember all those little stupid rumors. Obama will be the last president. Obama will be the last president. It's going to start the monarchy. It was the most obnoxious thing in the world. Obama will be the last president. Yeah, they're claiming a lot of weird stuff now with no evidence, no proof, no facts. Who needs that? You just have feeling. I feel as if this person is better, so they must be. Stop messing with them because I really don't have the patience for a lot of the stuff that they claim and do. Okay, and then the other side thought Trump would be the last president last month. Yeah, they that's what I'm saying, that they're just repeating terms that mean nothing. Last president because of what? Are they going to cancel the elections? They're just stupid. Especially if they're not immortal, they're going to die eventually, so you're going to have to replace them. No, it's just people. Um, I don't know. I'm just tired of this stupid cycle. Like I'm tired of applying all these places, getting no result. I'm tired of people doing grassroots stuff for Sanders, and then dingbats want to still vote for the other person because socialism. And I'm tired of people not having actual fact-based analysis. Like we're going to see Sanders can get 10 million votes in this primary, and they will still tell you he didn't win because he's a socialist. Not because the establishment picked one person to keep propping up and giving all this free positive coverage to. No, he's a socialist. it's stagnation. This what you should call this election cycle, just the stagnation cycle. People come out, they give facts and reasons for why you should do something, and then you use your feelings to basically push that away or to renounce their position. Both AOC and Tulsi Gabbard got prominent on the left wing for the first time by attending Standing Rock. The United States of stagnation. You apply for 50 jobs, you hear nothing back or a no thank you. You talk to 90 chicks, you get told you just want to be friends or you should stop talking to me altogether. You do a project where you have VAs that you give months to record stuff, and then they don't record it because they forgot, just all of it, and then they disappear. And I remember in the days leading up to yesterday, I was pissed off because this voice actor for the project vanished, and I was just like, where the hell did they go? And it was like adding insult to injury with the primary results. Like it just does not get better, does it, on any front. Like I'm just randomly expecting one day to just have some even worse stuff occur. It just gets worse and worse for like no reason. Because people already saw an establishment person lose before, so this is how you know that they just don't care. I already told you, Democrats, the ones at the top, are always going to make money and be wealthy and whatever. I talked to several chicks who are actually funded, only to find out they're already dating someone else. Well, that was my point. I had a bimbo who I went up to in the mall and said, "I am attracted to you," and they gave me their phone number and then said they had a boyfriend. It's like, then what? But again, somebody will say, "Well, if only you had done this," because remember, they don't let the chicks be responsible for anything. So we're not gonna get upset with the chick who was with someone who gave another dude her number. No, we're gonna get upset with the guy who had no way of knowing that he's supposed to tie her up and take her somewhere. That's why I said critical thinking skills be damned, facts are damned. Just I feel like you should have you know done this. We should call this the USS. US, yeah, okay. I didn't want to say three S's by accident. So we got the USSR and the USS, United States of Stagnation. Oh, and lazy political analysis. Well, if you're black and you don't win, that it's because you're black. It's not like that same party nominated someone else who was black, and you decided to be an idiot and not campaign the progressive way to trick Sanders supporters into voting for your crazy self. I'm telling you, man, Harris would have been, if she was just a little bit smarter and didn't have those dumb advisors, she would have been a real force to be reckoned with. She's just a much more savvy politician than Biden is. But like I said, that she was Ruben. I'm telling you, she was the preferred choice for these people because they wanted to call you sexist and racist for not supporting her, and they still are doing that. But it's too late. So now they go around saying that you have a bias in favor of white men. You can't. It's like Biden and Sanders have ideologies that are so different from each other, and we're really going to muddy the water by saying, "Oh yeah, you don't like them because one or the other, because you only like them because of them being old white dudes." Yeah, Jesus Christ, and I love it. It's like you have a diverse electorate, and you're like all these black people voted for Biden, and you're going to just chalk it up. That's what I say. I don't. Most of these analysts aren't saying anything that's Obama only won the election because he is exactly. But that's what I'm saying. They don't even like you would think 2008 never happened. Yeah, I even gave reasons for why Harris lost. I talked about all like the flip flopping on single payer, um, that she looked phony from doing that. How she was wasting time talking about suspending Trump's Twitter. Again, we disagree about because I still think she's a better senator than presidential candidate. And if she stayed as a senator, I wouldn't be too upset 'cause she does vote the right way a lot of times. But again, my point is they wanted her because they know the faults of Biden. So now they're going to play right into because I do think that he's going to lose no matter what. The economy being bad, no one cares. At least not enough people. Like it's really Harris really gained prominence with her pretend confrontation against Biden. Oh yeah, remember how she screwed that up because her campaign put out merchandise with her name with her like phrase on basically that they showed that that was staged because they so quickly put out stuff with the name of it on there. That little girl was me. Yeah. Again, I don't like any of these people to where I can't blame them for when it's accurate. I think Sanders should have stopped calling Biden his friend a long time ago. I think he should have been aggressive toward Warren. Because like I'm sorry, we're not friends if we're running against each other. Like for example, I like Ro Khanna. I mention him all the time. If he let's pretend it's 2024, 28, or 32, right? And I'm a governor or a senator or something like that. I'm gonna go up to him and say, "Hey, I'm running. Are you gonna run?" If he says yes, all right, screw it. Or let the best man win. But that because that's someone I would never want to attack. I'm just not going to make a scenario where I'm on the side of the other candidate or on the side of another candidate, even if it's myself. So I would still. You get the point that there's certain preliminaries that you do ahead of running. I think this little United Alliance thing that they had going has really backfired. Jesus. So yeah, I'm sick of these clowns voting for a retired piece of garbage who's going to lose this cycle in a couple of months if he's a nominee. And we'll just get 4 more years of Trump, and then we'll get another 4 years, maybe of Pence or some other right wing person. We're just gonna play this stupid game. And again, I voted for Sanders in California primary. To my surprise, they actually stuck the landing on that. I was very shocked. I've had such a low opinion of my state for such a long time when it comes to politics. Um, I've donated to him multiple times. I don't really know what else I could have done, you know, to make this any different. So, uh, hey, we'll keep on trying. See you later.